You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, sponsored by Essentia Health.
It only takes one step, twist, or crunch to know something doesn't feel right. Essentia Health's orthopedic and sports medicine team gets you back to doing what you love with commitment, resilience, intention. We're here to keep you moving forward. Visit essentiahealth.org to learn more about orthopedics and sports medicine, like nowhere else.
Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat writer at the Duluth News Tribune and the Rink Live.
And I'm Zach Schneider, the television voice of UMD hockey on My Nine Sports.
This is our last episode as we're going to join the Bulldogs men's and women's teams and take a bit of an extended break for final exams and the holidays, though Zach and I will not be taking any tests. Maybe I should speak for you, Zach. Tests?
No, I'm
Nothing?
done with tests.
You're done
for
with school?
life.
Yeah,
Yep.
Me too. No more school. Good for those that still trying to do that, but yeah, we're done. Our guest this week, he's in his first season as an assistant coach with the Bulldogs men's hockey team after 8 seasons in the USHL. Welcome to the podcast, Cody Chupp. Cody, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So quick bio on Cody. He's a native of Big Rapids, Michigan. So Cody, where on your hand? Where on your hand is that?
Yeah, it's kind of west side, halfway up, a little over halfway up.
Yeah, Cody's pointing right between, for those who are not familiar with the Michigan navigation, just take your right hand, a little there between the index and pinky finger there.
That's right.
This is a Wisconsin native saying Wisconsin should not be using their hand to designate where you are on a map. Don't listen to Charlie Barnes. Cody, you played 4 seasons for your hometown Ferris State Bulldogs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Who we have to mention, huge road sweep this weekend over Minnesota State. First conference opponent to do that in Mankato since Wisconsin in 2013. That was the WCHA, so 2 conferences ago. Pretty stoked about that.
Yeah.
Good time for Ferris State Bulldogs, right?
Yeah. They're. I texted Coach Daniels after the weekend and congratulated him. And as we know, it's a very difficult place to play. So, huge weekend for those guys.
I was going to say, did you ask Bob what was the secret? What worked for you guys? Because we didn't have as good a luck down there.
Yeah, I might have to save that one for the summer because I don't know if he's going to share a lot of in-season secrets. But, yeah, obviously excited for them. It's the same coaching staff as when I was there. So, yeah, it's great to see them having success because I always root for those guys. So.
This is Bulldog Insider. We're mixing in the Ferris State Bulldogs with the UMD Bulldogs this week.
The other Bulldogs.
2 yellow Bulldogs.
Yeah.
You spent a couple seasons as well in the AHL and the ECHL before getting into coaching. Your first job was with Division III Utica?
That's right, yeah.
And then 8 seasons in the USHL with Green Bay Gamblers. That's the hockey team I grew up watching in Wisconsin, and then Lincoln and Muskegon. You were hired by UMD in August. What have these first few months as an NCAA Division I head coach been like?
It's been exciting. I think when I'm asked this question, I always say there were a few college programs that I've always admired and what they've done and what players have done and the success that they've had. And UMD obviously was one of those. And for me, it was unique because 2 years ago, I had an opportunity to interview with Coach Sandelin before Derek came back. And it only made me more excited about this opportunity and this time around. And I think back to when we were going through the interview process this time around, it was a no-brainer. Coach asked a couple times if I was offered the job, if I would accept it, and there was no hesitation for me. And despite him encouraging me to speak with my wife and talk it through as a family, I just said, we've had this conversation and she knows and she's on board and she's excited. So yeah, again, it was really a perfect scenario for me as far as a program that I wanted to be a part of based on who they were as people and obviously what they've done on the ice and as a program. So that's
a veteran head coach knowing that maybe the tougher sell is to the spouse and family than the coach he's tried to hire himself. Can you talk a little more about the UMD program and was it Scott Sandelin? Is it the town? Is it the school? What else has stood out to you about the Bulldogs, a program? And was it your time in the USHL that familiarized you with UMD, or what was it?
Yeah, it was mostly through the USHL. I got to know Adam Krause pretty much right after he took the job here. I had worked with Jason Aldrich, who's at the time was the strength and conditioning coach. I was working in Lincoln. Adam took the job, and he's like, hey, our new coach is coming out to your camp. Like, just make them feel welcome. And so it was like, we got to know each other a little bit through that process. And then over the course of the next, probably 4 or 5 years, we developed a more of a relationship and just kind of stayed in touch. And the hockey world is big, but at the same time, pretty small. And I think when you recognize a personality or a person that you get along well with, or you see eye to eye on certain things, or is easy to talk to, whatever it is, you develop those closer relationships. And going through it with players who are trying to make the decision, obviously deciding between UMD and another school or where to take their visits. So I was on the other side of that, and obviously, I speak highly of anybody that works in hockey. It's just UMD has always stood out to me as a place that is honest, cares about their players, where players seem to succeed when they go there. So there's something going on at UMD, and this is me on the outside looking in. There's something going on at UMD that's working, that's having success, it's maximizing the potential or the player that they're getting on campus. So again, it was intrigue at first, and now that I'm here, I think it's connecting the dots to why UMD has had success, and Coach Sandelin does a fantastic job. He's very demanding, but he's at the same time extremely caring for the guys that are in the locker room. He values the program above everything, and I think that to me is what is so. It's that mentality, it's that atmosphere where it is team first, and it applies to everybody. Nobody's above the culture or the team or the program, and that's, to me, where I think it's easy to go astray when you have success. And credit to Coach Sandelin and Coach Krause, like, they're very focused on program first and putting the group or the legacy that you leave above the individual accolades or successes, and they model that on a daily basis, which I think is admirable for sure.
Coaches are probably a lot like the players who, while you're here at UMD, you want to be 100% focused on the success of this program. But careers are similar on the coaching side as they are on the playing side, that you may not be at UMD forever. And we've seen the Scott Sandelin coaching tree grow pretty wide in the world of hockey. Derek Plante is now with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's got couple head coaches that used to be assistants here, Brett Larson, Steve Rollick, Jason Herter, I think could be a head coach somewhere if he ever wanted to be. He said he's happy being an assistant the last time we talked to him here on the podcast. But he
was also ice fishing when he talked to us on the podcast.
Right, that's maybe one of the reasons he was so happy.
Yeah, he was out ice fishing. We need to put an asterisk on there.
Yeah, that might have been why he was in such a good mood being an assistant coach that week. But the attractiveness of what you can learn here as a coach at UMD and how you can grow your skill set while you're here and then maybe expand it past. I know you're not thinking about that now, but how attractive is that too, that this can be the same environment for coaches as it can be players to come and grow and learn things that maybe you couldn't, being a head coach yourself in the USHL.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely exciting or something that obviously is a big reason of why I was so attracted to UMD. I think, again, whether it's taking a job with Coach Sandelin, spending a decade here, or it's a 30-minute conversation with a guy who's, worked in college or works in the NHL or whatever it is, I think for me personally, I'm always trying to take things from people that have been through it or people that have had success, and whether it's coaching, whether it's a different profession. It's just how I am. I want to learn. I want to get better. I want to find new ways of doing things. I want to learn or take certain pieces from the way certain people do things, while at the same time staying true to who I am as a person. And I think that's always the trickiest thing as a coach, especially a young coach, is I think back to when I got my first head coaching opportunity, I was young. It was a little bit unexpected, or before I kind of saw it in my own timeline. I think early on I was trying to piece together all the coaches that I'd played for and respected and thought that they did certain things well. And really what I learned from that situation is authenticity is king. And I think there's lots of opportunities to learn and to grow and to be better and be better versions of yourself. But ultimately you have to be yourself. Otherwise it's manufactured. And I think it was a huge learning experience for me, and as you guys probably are well aware, Coach Sandelin is a very authentic human being. He's passionate, he cares, it shows through in everything that he does. And, so again, it was that side of it, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a huge component of learning from someone who's had a ton of success. So
what are the big skills that you bring in? Where are you the strongest, I guess, as a coach? Is it in the recruiting field? Is it on the ice? What's the place that you bring in the most, and the place that maybe you have the most to learn as you start your career here at UMD?
Yeah, that might be a better question for Coach Sandelin and Coach Krause. But, for me, I think the recruiting side, my experience in that is a little bit different probably than maybe some of the other options, where I've been through it with the players, probably more on the player side, where I'm coaching the kids that are going on visits and making decisions on schools. I've seen how schools interact with players and how they recruit and how they do things. So, I've seen probably 45 to 50 schools recruit, and I've seen the strategy that they use and what they're saying to kids and how they're dealing with these different players. So my experience is a little less doing it myself and more so watching how other people do it and seeing how they do it. Recruiting is a little bit of a crazy world right now. It was getting crazy, then COVID hit, and it just got crazier from there. So it's constantly evolving and changing, and there's lots of conversations about adding scholarships and different things like that are going to just change it again. But again, I think it goes back to the understanding of who we are as people, who we are as a program, what type of kid thrives in our environment, and what we're looking for to enhance our culture, someone who can come in and be a culture driver. And that's a big component of whether you're recruiting at UMD, whether you're recruiting to the USHL or to Division III Utica. You have to find character in people, because those are the guys that when you're not around that are saying the right things in the locker room, that are driving the intensity in practice. And so that is, to me, it's like you can't miss on those things. And evaluating talent and finding diamonds in the rough, like those are things that you work and you work and you work and you watch games and you're on the road and you're putting in the work. But we can't miss on character, and that's a huge component, I know, for all of us as we talk about players coming into our program. So I'm learning the recruiting side. It's constant learning, and Adam's been great and kind of helping me, get my feet under me a bit in that side of it. When it comes to the coaching side and the on ice stuff, I think I just bring different experiences, and it's not to say that I bring something that Coach Sandelin or Coach Krause has never heard of, and this new idea that's going to just blow the doors off everybody. It's more so I bring different experiences, and so it creates maybe a little diversity in the conversation, and hopefully ideas and opinions that get us all thinking. Because I think when we're pushing each other, that's where we're at our best. When we're challenging each other, that's where we all get better.
It's interesting you mentioned like the different experiences that various coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches can bring into college. Adam Krause didn't have a lick of recruiting experience or coaching experience when he got here. He came right out of the pro ranks. So you actually probably bring a little more recruiting experience than Adam had. But how different is it being on the other side now, being the coach trying to sell a school after being with the players and watching them go through the process? And I'm wondering, does it give you a different perspective? You said you watched 50 other schools, all how these other schools recruit. Do you think you bring a different perspective on when it comes time to talk with a kid on whether making a decision to come to UMD and such?
Yeah, maybe. I think one of the things I always admired about UMD and a big component of why I was so interested in working here was how they recruit and the integrity that they recruit with. I think in the world that we live in, there's over recruiting, there's there's teams that have 18 scholarships, but they have 25 of them committed. So that side of it it's easy to get caught up in that, because especially now players are decommitting, or this new guy that becomes available, you get excited about, but we already have 4 of those. What do we do with these guys? One of the things about UMD is what I always told kids that were playing for me, that were visiting UMD or contemplating a visit to UMD, was if they tell you this is the offer or this is the opportunity, believe them, because what they're telling you is the truth. And I think that's one of the things that I've always admired about how they do things. It was made very clear to me from day one that that's how we will continue to do things. So again, it's unique to the school. Every school is different. Now in the recruiting world, there's fewer and fewer schools like UMD. So it's something that we take a lot of pride in recruiting, offering with integrity and honesty, being honest with kids when we make an offer, when we talk about the opportunity that they're going to have here. So that side of it is great. What I bring is hopefully just authenticity. I'm a guy who really loves my relationship with players, takes pride in my relationship with players. I think players hopefully enjoy playing for me, thrive in that environment where they know that I care about their success and I'm willing to do anything I can to help make them better. So that's kind of who I am as a coach. It's hopefully what I bring and convey in the recruiting process. I
kind of thought for you, you step in, you're like one of 13 new faces that came to Amsoil Arena this year, and I might be missing someone in there. For you, what was that dynamic like, stepping into this locker room, that kind of a fresh start after the run of national championships and Frozen Fours and everything. And I'm curious, how familiar were you with a lot of these players? I went back and looked at it this morning. At least 18 guys on the roster right now either played a full or partial season in the USHL. Some of them way back there, but a lot of USHL ties on this roster, especially coming in this year.
Yeah, 2 guys. Dom James played for me in Lincoln. I drafted Benny Steeves in Lincoln. They actually played on the same line when we drafted them. So those 2 I was probably most familiar with. Again, with all the USHL ties, a couple guys played in Green Bay that I just missed, they were coming in as I was leaving. But I was familiar with a lot of the guys based on the time that they'd spent in the USHL, most of them coaching against them. Obviously, Kyle Bettens, who was in Youngstown, I saw a ton of him last year. So it helped for sure. And again, early on, I was here, I think I showed up a week after school started. So it was my head was all over the place, new job, moving the family out here, moving into a new house. So I was treading water for a bit, trying to put faces with names. And like I said, forming relationships for me is always step one. And so you kind of have to know what a guy looks like and know his name to form a relationship. So we were getting through that process was a little bit of a whirlwind. Plus, you're going on the road and the recruiting process doesn't wait for anybody. So getting my feet under me there was it was a lot at first. Again, Krause was great to kind of ease me into that process as much as he could, but it was a whirlwind. I'm thankful for my time in the USHL where I had the connection to some of these guys. I'm thankful for the fact that I wasn't the only new face. I think there were a lot of guys that it was a whirlwind for. So it was good though, and it is very unique having this many new faces, especially for UMD. Not only a new coach, but a bunch of new faces in the room, and I think it speaks to a little bit of where we're at right now and trying to find our way a bit. But yeah, it's been good. I think it's something that I'll definitely remember. It's hard to see a lot of big picture right now. You're so focused on the day to day, but I think down the road it's something that I'll be pretty fond of being able to spend my first year with 10 guys in the same boat. So
Ben Steeves and Dom Jades played on the same line for you in Lincoln.
They played on the same line in U16 hockey. We actually ended up drafting the whole line that year out of Oakland Junior Grizzlies. And Dom played for me the first year, and Benny and his family were actually in the process of moving to Eden Prairie. So Benny played at Eden Prairie that year, and then just so happened that the following year I was gone and didn't get a chance to coach him. So
I was going to say, are you taking credit because they were on the top line together?
Sure, yeah,
Saturday night,
I'll take
Ben
credit.
Scored 3 goals, so
no issue there.
You're like, hey, maybe we try him on the same line, and look what happened.
Yeah,
so.
I probably I'm trying to think if Krause would have seen them together on the same line ever, but I know I have seen them on the same line together, and it was good then. So I'm happy that it seems to be working now. So
Scott actually admitted in the post game on Saturday, he goes to me, "Do you know Ben and Dom had played together before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I had." And I'm like, "Where did I remember that?" And I think it was when I was researching Cody or somewhere in there. One of them might have mentioned it to me that they had played together before at some point. And I'm like, "Yeah, I seem to remember they played together somewhere." Yeah, I thought it was funny when Scott goes, "Did you know those guys have played together before?"
Seemed to work out.
Yeah, actually, so when we drafted them, they were playing at Oakland Junior Grizzlies, kind of in Detroit, and we had that whole line came up to play a couple affiliate games, and I want to say we were in Des Moines, and we played that whole affiliate young guy line together. It was Dom James, Benny Steves, and Owen Michaels was the third one who just committed to Western Michigan. So, they were the young guns line, and it's nice to see 2/3 of it back together and doing a little bit of the same thing. So
Ben Steves said something on our television broadcast after Saturday's game that kind of struck me, is that it's just a formula, and they're starting to figure out how to put the math equation together, and that seems so apt to describe UMD over the last 6, 7, 8 years, that it is just a formula, and the pieces have moved in and out, whether it's coaches, whether it's players. And for the most part, this team has played the same exact way with the same exact expectations and had a lot of success over the past decade plus under Scott Sandelin. And are you feeling that as an assistant coach too, that when you got here, along with some of those freshmen and those new faces, that your head was spinning, but now you're all starting to figure out what that formula is and what the identity is and can be of this team? Because it felt like Saturday was maybe the closest that we've seen to the identity that this team has had over its most recent string of successful seasons.
Yeah, I think so. It's difficult as a coach to, say, well, problem solved, I guess, is like, so you're always a little apprehensive to say, well, that worked, so it's just going to keep working. And I think, that's one thing that Sandy always makes very apparent, is the success that UMD has had is, there's players that are in our locker room right now that are here because of that success, and they want to be a part of it. I'm here because of that success, and I want to be a part of it. But it's not fair to say that just because success has happened in the past that it will just keep happening. And it's not fair to say that because we played better on Saturday, we're going to play better this coming Friday. And that's always the easy trap to fall into, is that because it's happened once, it's going to keep happening. And that's our job on a daily basis, is to remember why it happened and how it happened, and to continue to drive forward instead of being comfortable with where we're at. And I think, the great thing about Benny, and I like his comments, because Benny's been through adversity, and when players show up on campus, take our freshman class, well, they're all freshmen, but some of them are 20 and some of them are 18, and some of them had had a lot of adversity in their playing career or in their life, and some of them haven't had any, and guys have been cut and others haven't, and so it's different for everybody. But adversity is never a bad thing to go through, especially at a young age. And Benny's a great example of that, where he's been cut, he's been traded, he's played on the fourth line, he's had to work his way up through a lineup, and what you learn about through those experiences. And I was reading something today. He said, just keep shooting. I'm just going to keep shooting. And that, he's right. Like, if you're a scorer and you're not scoring, keep shooting, keep doing it, keep doing it. And I think that's, again, sometimes when guys or teams are struggling, it's very easy to splinter and go your own direction, and to abandon what we've worked at as a group, and to kind of go on your own page. And you can't do that. You can't abandon the process, and you have to buy in even more when things aren't going your way or you're not getting the results that you want. But obviously it's uplifting to have games like Saturday, and I think even before our Saturday game in Western, we were saying 4 or 5 games we've really started to move the right direction and push this thing the right direction, where we're liking our consistency within games, our 60-minute efforts are all improving. And then we had a setback on Saturday, and that's how it goes, right? And that's another kind of situation where you can say, well, we're just going to try something new and guys are going to turn on each other and they're going to do this or that. That's where you put your head down and work even harder at buying into the process and what we're trying to do as a group. So yeah, it's exciting to have games like Saturday, but we have to refuse to fall into the trap of apathy and thinking that because we did it once, we're going to just keep doing it.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more with Cody Chupp. You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
Hey there, my name is Wyatt Buckner, and I'm the host of the Duluth News Tribune Minute Podcast. Hear the most important news of the day, including weather and sports from Duluth, Minnesota, and from around the Northland. Join me and my fellow reporters as we take you through the local news you need to start your day. Episodes are released Monday through Friday and are available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for supporting local journalism.
Hi, I'm Maria Lockwood, a reporter with the Superior Telegram. Explore Superior and Douglas County history with me on Archive Dive, a monthly podcast available at superiortelegram.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. They're proud to be the team physicians for the UMD Bulldogs and provide sports medicine care to more than 25,000 student athletes in the community to ensure they can compete at the highest level while protecting their long-term health and athletic futures. Thanks to Essentia Health for their support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast. I'm Matt Wellens, joined by my co-host, Zach Schneider, and our guest, Cody Chupp. Cody, one of the cool things I think it is that we get to talk to you about, and I think you've kind of provided some insight already on it, is you have that insight of being on the other side, working with kids who are being recruited by colleges. And I'm wondering, as someone who's coached in the USHL, what advice do you have? What's some of the advice you gave players that you coached in the USHL about what they should look for when, trying to decide what school to go to if they're getting offered? And maybe even, I think one of the toughest decisions for kids is when to make that jump, whether it's from high school to the USHL or USHL to college. And now you're going to be dealing with kids trying to make the jump from from the college to the pros. What's some advice you can offer, kids as they're growing up here?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me when a player or one of my players was going on a visit was encouraging them to do their homework and do their research on the school that they were visiting. And what I mean by that is, who do they have committed? Who do they have committed in your position? Who are you competing against? And those are really important things because, ultimately every young player wants to play in the NHL. Well, if you don't play, then you won't play in the NHL. So that's a big one for me. The other one is make sure that you're asking questions that pertain to you, development questions that pertain to you. So you can go somewhere and be enamored by the facilities and be enamored by all the cool free stuff that you get and be enamored by the campus or whatever it is. All of that can be fantastic, but you should be asking, how am I going to get better here? What do you like about me as a player? What do I need to improve on as a player? Because, nobody's perfect. Nobody's a finished product, especially when they show up on a college campus at, 18 to 20 years old. There's a lot of work to be done between then and when you sign your first contract, wherever that may be. So those are the questions that really, really matter. And the league that you play in, yeah, that matters. But again, you have to make sure that the fit is right for you and not for somebody else. And not because it's going to look cool or you can tell your buddies, well, I committed here at this age. The recruiting world right now is a lot of 16-year-old commitments that don't end up at that school. And I think it's important to make sure that you're asking those questions. When it comes to when you're ready to move to the next level, the answer to that is always when you're ready. And I think, if anything, players, advisors, parents, whatever it is, get really excited about going faster. I could tell you a dozen stories of kids that went too fast and it didn't work out. I can't think of off the top of my head someone that slowed down that process and regretted slowing down the process. And what I mean by that is succeeding where you are and conquering the level that you're currently at. Confidence is a huge thing. And we were just talking about Benny Steeves. That's a prime example of someone who bought into the process of where he was at, succeeded where he was at, went to the next level with a bunch of confidence, and now it's paying off for him. He was playing on the fourth line, in and out of the lineup. He was scratched. He was trying to figure out, where do I fit? What's the role I need to play in order to stay in the lineup? How do I develop a B game and those pieces? So again, buy into where you're at, embrace the level that you're at, and embrace the opportunity to get better every day, wherever you are, because every junior program, every college, there's opportunity for skill ice, for video. The resources are growing by the year for opportunities for young players to get better at any level. Take advantage of those things. And it's maybe a little cliche, but if you're not working at it, you're not going to get any better at it.
Being in the USHL, did that prepare you a little bit for dealing maybe with the player on a more personal level compared to what they might be hearing, whether it's in the media, whether it's from their parents, their friends, their advisors about, hey, you should be in college, and now it's like, hey, you should be in the pros. Isaac Howard, another freshman that you have this year, strikes me as very similar to Riley Tufte, who was the last first-round draft pick that UMD had, where they arrive on campus and it feels like the whole community is like, well, this kid should be in the NHL already. And Isaac has gone through some struggles in the first half, and I think Scott has expressed some confidence that he's going to figure it out and he's going to be a really good college player. But dealing with Isaac and saying, hey, you don't need to be in the NHL right now. You've got time to figure out this level in this game. And I know he's not scoring at the clip that maybe was expected with his resume coming in, but how do you deal with that and somebody who's like, just focus on what you're doing at UMD right now and don't think about maybe what's going to happen 3-4 years from now?
Yeah, to me that goes back to the recruiting process and understanding the character of the kid that you're bringing in. And there's 31 other first round draft picks, and they're not all built like Isaac Howard. I think what gives us as a staff such confidence in Isaac is his maturity and the type of kid he is. We know he's going to work, and we don't question his work ethic. Is scoring coming very difficult for him right now? Yeah, but do we believe he's going to get through it? We do, and that's because of what we know about Isaac. And again, it goes back to that same conversation of adversity's fine. And I can almost guarantee you Tampa's looking at this going, great. He's going to figure out how to get himself out of this now so he doesn't have to figure it out when we sign him. And I think that's something that no matter what level it comes at, you have to embrace the adversity. You have to put your head down and go to work every single day. And, usually that's the answer. Put your head down and go to work every single day. And the great thing for us is Isaac is one of those kids, and that's why we believe he's going to get through it, and we know he's going to get through it. And, he's a fantastic player. Everybody goes through slumps. The only difference is for Isaac, he hasn't experienced too many slumps, So, if he wants to talk about not scoring, I think that's where Coach Krause and I can really come in and offer our services and what it's like not to score goals. But Isaac's going to be just fine. And again, that speaks to his character and the type of kid he is and the work ethic that he has. So, yeah, the biggest thing for me is just, the difference in time. And in the USHL, we get a ton of time throughout the day with our players. And here, these guys basically have 2 full-time jobs. They've class. They have to be at the rink and do their workouts and get practice in and do their homework at night. But, the opportunities before practice via video, skill ice, different things like that to work on your game are always there. And, it's the guys that buy into it on a daily basis that you see those drastic improvements in throughout the course of a year or a half a year. So our guys are bought into that. I think they like doing the extra work, and as a coaching staff, that's all you can ask for.
All right, some quick hits to close out this week's episode. We mentioned that you grew up in Big Rapids, home of Ferris State. You got to play for your hometown Bulldogs. This is a program that has a lot of hometown kids that stick around to play for it. For you, why'd you want to stick around in Big Rapids there and play for Ferris State?
Yeah, I don't think there was any question in my mind from from basically 2 or 3 years old. Both my parents went to Ferris. They stayed in Big Rapids. So when I was young, they started taking me to games, and I think it was, I was 3 years old walking around games telling people, I'm going to play for the Cardinals, which is the high school team in Big Rapids, and then I'm going to play for the Bulldogs, and then after that I'm going to play for the Red Wings. And then that was, it was very simple in my head at 3 years old. That was how it was going to go.
Completely figured out at that point.
Yeah. The Red Wings threw that whole thing off. They didn't offer me that contract, but no, like I said, I grew up, and a lot of it for me was the people that were there, and again, like growing up in that environment in a college town, being close to the hockey team, having those guys over to our house for dinner, going to summer camp, and them being your counselors. Those guys were my heroes from the time I was 3 years old all the way through my high school years, where Chris Kunitz was there setting records, and so that was where my heart always was, and I didn't understand how anything worked when I was young, and when I started to go through the process, I did explore other opportunities in other schools and took other visits, and it just kept going back to this is where I've always seen myself. It's hard to reprogram whatever it was, 15 years of knowing this is where I wanted to be if I was given the opportunity. So
Bob Daniels is always one of my favorite guys to work with when I was in the CCHA covering Northern Michigan. What's the best advice Bob ever gave you that's come in handy now as a coach?
Oh, man. He's got a lot of great advice. I don't know if I can repeat all of it on the air, but
Bob's a good storyteller.
He is a fantastic storyteller. I play golf with him a few times a summer, still every summer. Try to make it back for Golforama, which is always their big outing where they get the crew together. But the biggest thing to me is when I was a captain there, and this is something that I think every young captain and leadership group goes through. My junior year, I was really struggling with how to lead and what that looked like, and I thought that if everybody liked me and agreed, then we would be a better team and we'd have more success. So it was a full-fledged, everything was a vote and a democracy, and what do you guys think? And okay, I'll take that to coach. And so what ended up actually happening was my senior year, there were no A's. He took all the A's away, and he said, it's no longer a democracy. You're making the decisions. And I didn't like that. It's not my character. It's just, it wasn't an area that I'd had a lot of experience in. And he saw and knew that was what I needed in my leadership to find confidence in what I knew or felt about the group, and instead of being on the fence and allowing my decision making to be swayed by the vote. He saw that was what I needed, and it was uncomfortable at the time, but it was for me it was extremely valuable in my leadership.
What was your best memory from your days playing college hockey, and how do you make sure student athletes at UMD have a similar experience?
My greatest memory is the first time I put the jersey on. I'll never forget that experience. And I know this is something that, Adam and I share, kind of that experience, right? And I'm not saying that if you don't grow up in a college town, you can't have it, but people who care, it's different. And it just, there's a different buy-in right from the get-go if you truly care. And you can be from anywhere, and you can come to UMD or any other school and truly be bought into what's going on and care. But, my experience at Ferris started when I was 3 and culminated when I was 20, 21 and put the jersey on for the first time. So there was a lot of background and emotion and experience to that first game and putting the jersey on. And so it was, I'd like to say at 20 I wasn't an emotional guy or really in touch with my feelings very much, but it was extremely emotional, being able to have your family in the stands every single home game and to put the jersey on that you've been watching for so long. So
all right, last one to close us out. One thing you miss from Michigan that you'd like to bring back here to Minnesota?
Ooh. I don't know, honestly.
There's a lot of Michigan you find out here.
This is very, Minnesota. Where we just moved from, we were in Grand Haven, which, we were right by Lake Michigan, close to the beach. Duluth feels a lot like Michigan. And, family would probably be the easiest, most correct answer there. Is being close to family. The 2 years we spent in Michigan was great for my kids, for my wife. It's the only time we've been that close to home or to family. So that's probably the part we miss the most. But honestly, like we love Duluth, and we love being outdoors. We love everything about it so far. I think it'll start to feel a lot more like home when we get through a summer. So we're looking forward to that, and just putting down roots and growing here and enjoying where we are.
Yeah, you missed the nice time a year here, which is also what you can say about Michigan too.
Yeah, no strangers to snow and cold there, so it's.
Yeah, that was a real nice welcome home you got to Kalamazoo a couple of years ago.
Well, when we landed at the airport and you couldn't see 10 feet outside the plane window, I was like, this is different. And guys are like, is it normal to have this much snow? I was like, no, it's not down here.
In Marquette, it's normal.
Yeah,
not in Kalamazoo.
And that's what I kept saying. Like, this is maybe once or twice a year they get something like this, and just it was bad.
All right, that's all the time we have on the podcast this week. Cody, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
You can find the Bulldog Insider Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and rate us. For more Bulldogs hockey coverage, visit therinklive.com and DuluthNewsTribune.com. Zach, another doubleheader weekend at Amsoil Arena, and I think you actually have to work all 4 games this time, don't you?
Nope, I just get to watch the 2
course.
women's games. So they're playing St. Thomas at 3 o'clock Friday, Saturday. Those are not on TV. They'll be on Big Ten Plus, but we've got the men's games against Denver, 7 o'clock Friday, Saturday. Those will be on My 9 Sports and CHC TV.
Come on, Zach. You going to be there at least for all 4 games?
I don't make the schedule. I'll be there to watch the women, though.
All right. I'll be there for all 4 games for the second consecutive weekend, and then really looking forward to a 2-week break. Thanks to our sponsor, Essentia Health, for their continued support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast, and thanks to all of you for listening. Happy holidays. We'll be back December 29th.